Welcome to the Millionaire Mindcast, where we broadcast weekly interviews with millionaire minds from across the globe to empower you on your journey of unlocking a rich and fulfilling life. It's time to unleash your millionaire within. Now, here's your host, Matty A.
What's going on, guys? Welcome into today's show. You guys know I love travel, I love business, I love hospitality, and we get to touch on all three of those things today. You know, when it comes to entrepreneurship, building a business, taking that leap of faith, a lot of people struggle with even taking that first step because of that imposter syndrome or the fear of not having enough experience or expertise. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy today's interview with Shane Mahoney, the CEO and founder of Lugos Travel, because he really talks about how he fell into being a tour operator and building a world-class travel business. And we really talked about a lot of different things on obviously all of those different verticals of entrepreneurship, business building, you know, the travel industry as a whole. But I think there's a lot of tips and tools in here that you're going to enjoy, specifically around customer experience and unique value propositions and processes, and going a little bit above and beyond to build that customer loyalty, to build that referral network, to create partnerships, not only with other business owners and service providers, but with your customers themselves. And he talked about 4 particular categories in general that I absolutely loved, and 2 additional categories that ultimately has allowed him to take his business through these unique value propositions to a completely new level. He talked about making things frictionless and how he goes about, right, creating opportunities to scale revenue through solving problems that you see in your industry or in your space. We talked about the psychology of your customers and how these things change over time, specifically in the context of travel and hospitality, and what technology is doing to many different industries as a whole. We talked about his number 1 favorite travel hacks. We talked about why you should travel with a tour operator and how you can make those turnkey experiences one of your secret weapons for gaining and attracting more customers, the repeat customers, and really kind of turning, right, friction points into smooth, repeatable processes and building a business that allows you to actually enjoy the business that you got into for in the first place, right? Which was not to be a slave for your business, but to really leverage and build and scale a business to unlock real freedom and time and fun. And so we cover a lot in today's episode. I got to ask a lot of questions selfishly around hospitality and, you know, building a business in the tour and travel industry and space. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy this particular episode. So with that being said, be sure to check out all the links to show notes at millionairemindcast.com on Shane's episode. And let's dig into today's interview with Mr. Shane Mahoney of Lugos Travel right after this quick message from today's show sponsor. Welcome to the show, Shane Mahoney. How we doing, man?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. I appreciate the time to be able to connect with your audience and hopefully give them a little bit of new information.
Absolutely. Well, every time we get a guest on, you know, I think ultimately I always say I'm a student of life. I'm always looking for my next teacher. And, you know, I think that's the beauty of our community as well, is everybody's always looking to sharpen their pencil in some way. And even if it's just one little nugget or tip, you know, or mindset shift, sometimes that's all it takes to get you to the next level. So I'm excited to hear a little bit more about what you're up to and some of the great things in your space. Selfishly, obviously, you know, sharing on the hotel side of things. And one of the things that we're passionate about, you know, is just creating experiences for people. And, you know, our one of our company missions is to, in terms of, you know, we want to engrave an unforgettable experience in the heart and mind of every guest at our hotels. And I know you share in that same passion. And I think that's probably a similar mission if you were to tweak that context to any business of how do you, you know, engrave, you know, an unforgettable experience for your customer, and how that will serve you in growing not only your brand loyalty, but obviously grow your revenue. And so we'll be talking a little bit more about some of that stuff today. But for those that aren't familiar with Lugos Travel and you and what you do, you know, where did this all start, man?
So it's funny how this started because I graduated college and I think I did what a lot of people did. I got my first great job And then I parlayed that into other great jobs. And professionally, I just spent 12 years after college in sales, finance jobs, progressively just honestly making more money. It's really all I did. I got better at making more money. And so I hit 34 years old and I was just like absolutely done. I had never actually asked myself, what do you really want to do with your life? I had just done the next best thing that was put in front of me.
Yeah.
And so it's funny how things work out, because I had this this crazy plan. I was like, well, you know what? I'm half French. Let me move to France. I will be a ski instructor, and it will suck money wise, but I'll be having fun. And so I set on that path, and my mom actually found an article in France magazine about a guy who had a 20-year real estate agency in Colorado, sold everything, moved to France, and started a ski school. And I was like, this guy gets me. I will have a job with him by tomorrow. So I wrote him a really long email, and I was just like, dude, this is where I'm at. I'm in the same spot in my life that apparently you were. And I said, let's talk. And he was very generous. And we spoke the next day for 4 hours.
Oh, wow.
And the net effect was, he said, look, he says, it's not that you shouldn't be a ski instructor. He says, but I think given that I've spoken to you for a while, as I think if you could do anything, you could be a great tour operator. And to be honest, Matthew, I had no idea what a tour operator even was. Now, for perspective, I grew up traveling. My dad he drilled for oil on an exploratory ship in the Indian Ocean. So I lived 3 years in Australia, a year in Borneo. I was an exchange student in high school in Barcelona. Like, traveling was ensconced in my blood, but I had no idea what that was. And so just for your audience, a travel agent and a tour operator are two different sides of the coin. So travel agents really don't generally make custom tours. What they do is they find clients and they pair them to tour operators. Tour operators, like we are the ones who create the experience and put it all together. And one of the things that separates Lugos Travel is we don't sell through travel agents. We just sell directly to people. So we wanted to shortcut that process. And so here I was 34. I was given this go check out this other thing that you didn't even know about. And so I just did a ton of research. And to be honest, at the end of about a month of research, plan A, B, and C for my entire life was be a tour operator. I was just like, I'm all in. Like, I pushed all the chips in, and I was like, this is what I'm going to do. So it's been a crazy coming in July, 11 years, because I started this industry with exactly zero experience in my industry, or what normal practices were at all. And so what we've done is we've developed a lot of the tools that we use. And we are very much one of the only companies to do several different things within the travel industry and space, because we do everything different. And I think what that does is it creates a better experience for people, because I can take my knowledge and experience traveling the world and put it towards the American mindset, which is often, hey, I'm going to go to this one place this one time, and I want to do as much as I can while I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm probably never going to come back. And I understand that at a very foundational level, because there's so much to see. It's really tough to say, like, I'm going to go to this place like a bunch of times. Most people that go to Paris go once from America. Whereas, conversely, in Europe, most people that go to Paris go there like 5 or 6 or 8 times. So we just need to cater to the right audience. And that's what I try to do with everything that I do.
I love that. Well, I know we're going to, talk a little bit more about the travel industry and experiences and things like that, but I want to, touch a little bit more on your entrepreneurial journey before we do that, in terms of, I think a lot of people have this imposter syndrome, right? Of,
Sure.
I don't have any experience in this space. Who am I to, feel like I can go and succeed in this particular area or business? How did you overcome kind of that zero experience mindset and turn passion and idea into legitimate business that we see today?
That's a great question. I think just right off the bat, when you said that, I was just like, no, literally plan A, B, and C was go be a tour operator. Well, I was really fortunate. I had a friend from high school who was celebrating his 10-year anniversary, and trusted me first tour out the gate to go ahead and plan it for him. So, but it's funny because I remember I had no idea what even a right profit percentage was to charge, and the truth is that I earned my chops, but because on that deal, I think I went in the hole. I actually spent more money than they gave me to make sure that their experience was just top notch. And, and taking that extra effort and not worrying about the dollars and cents of what I was doing on an individual basis, but worrying about the actual final product. That person is still a client today, is a stark raving fan, is one of the first people to say, when somebody's like, hey, where should I need a travel agent, or I need somebody who can help me. And they're like, boom, you should talk to this person. So really looking at it from that perspective, I can honestly say I found my passion and what I wanted to do. I just had to learn how to do it. And I knew that just was going to take time. So I did. I invested in myself and my time, and making sure that I was able to put together over time the systems and processes that made my company run better. I'll give you a great example. So when I first started out, first couple of years, every single deal that I did, I went back and counted, was an average of 350 emails, start to finish, right? Which is, of course, untenable in the long term. But as I was able to get the right pieces in place over time, we've got that down to under 25 for every deal. Doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter how many customizations. Now we can get it into a position where we understand what we need to do and how we need to do it, and we're not, burning a lot of time doing things over and over again the wrong way. So,
yeah. Systems and processes obviously are a big key to scale, right? And there's that balance of being the doer and then also figuring out how do I, kind of tightrope building at the same time. So eventually I can fire myself out of having to do these things and succeed through others, and right, your people and your processes. And what was kind of, you mentioned, kind of taking inventory. That was just one example of the email piece, right? And building out those processes. How do you take that inventory, and what's the rhythm around what systems are needed, and how you went about building your company to where it can actually run without you, and you can go and enjoy, the luxuries of why most people get into business for in the first place, but really never actually cross that milestone of being able to step out of the business and being a slave in the business.
Sure. If I heard the question right, it's, how did you put all this together? Right. Like, in my industry, really a lot of tour operators, but give you another example. A lot of people would come to a tour operator or a travel agent as really an order taker. Like, I want to do this, I want to be here, I want to do that, and stuff like that. And so early on, I realized that is the mode that a lot of people want to interact with a travel professional. But what I needed to do was teach them that that's not exactly in their best interests, because ultimately, and I'm going to kind of dive into philosophy. I'm glad that you brought up philosophy earlier, because I am huge in philosophy. So philosophically, let's talk about what is a vacation and why do people take them, and what happens around the decision-making process of going on vacation, right?
Yep.
And so what I see is a lot of people want to go on vacation because they understand it's a way to recharge their batteries, step away from their business, implement new ideas, spend time with family, friends, and experience the world in a different way and through different eyes. So what I find is that oftentimes people will go and they will be like, I need to take a vacation. And so they start researching a whole bunch of stuff. And to be honest, that's doing my job, which I do every day, every now and then. And you're never going to be as good at it as I am. Just like probably, I have never run a hotel. I would not be able to do what you're doing, right? So, so here's the thing, right? Is what is a vacation? It is to get away from your work. So if you choose to research all the things and read all the articles about the 3 best beaches or the hotels with the rooftop bar, pools and stuff like that, like as soon as you start doing that, what you've done is you've accepted a new position at the job of where am I going to go on vacation and what I'm going to do. And now you have all of your normal stress in your job, plus the additional stress of making sure that you book the hotel on the right day, that you didn't forget that you're going to have an overnight flight, so you don't book your hotel on the night you left and stuff like that. There's all these little things, right? And ultimately, one of the things that really is big is who do you want to deal with the problems when they come up, right? Do you want to be on the flight and find out that the Airbnb you booked just canceled your reservation? You're going to land in a couple of hours and now you've got to find a place to stay. Do you want that stress? Or would you rather be like, land and find out that that problem has already been solved and the driver's picking you up and taking you to the new place and you didn't have to do anything at all? Which one is a vacation, right? Which one? And so what I look at is like, by hiring a professional, what you're doing is you're actually taking a vacation from planning a vacation, which is one of the most key components of taking away the stress of going on vacation. You now can focus on your job and making money the way that you do, and not have to worry about all the things that come into making sure that you have a good experience. So, that's one of the really big things. It kind of came down to like, one of my friends was like, what's the best travel hack? And I was like, are you serious? Like, I could give you you want top 5 lists. That's what most people want, right? Like, what's the top 5 beaches? What's the top 5 cities to go to? And I'm like, listen, those things are different for literally everybody. And my job is to be able to get to know my clients so that I can give that difference without clouding you with a bunch of homework to do.
Right.
You can just be like, here, go here. This is good for you. And so now you're not spending all that time in your second job of planning a vacation, and you don't have the stress of what if something goes wrong. And I think those are one of the ways that you can deep dive into having that experience that you so desire, without the additional stress that it would take to do it yourself.
So I wouldn't be doing anybody a service by not asking. You brought it up and I had it written down, which was, what are some of the best travel hacks, right? Maybe not necessarily, destinations or things along those lines, but what are some of the things that, people don't think about or undervalue or overlook when it comes to planning their travel that, you guys really excel and specialize in?
Best number one hack I have is hire a professional. Maybe not even us, but just hire a professional. Because honestly, like, we are doing this every single day, multiple times a day, and we understand the pressures of what happens. But to get into the other parts of your question, what are some of the things that I think people undercut themselves when they do it? Honestly, like, one of the big ways is hotels. For years, I heard people say, well, this is just a place I'm going to sleep. Why does it have to be nice? Right? It can just be a dump. And like, everybody has some sliding scale of what they're willing to go with. At some point they're like, yeah, I don't want a Motel 8, but I don't want the Ritz-Carlton, right?
Yep.
And so one of the things I would say is this is, looking at your hotel is actually a very, very big part of a great vacation, from the decor, from the position, the location, the amenities. There's a lot of things that I think really go into the psychology of that. And so some of the things that we do is we focus on nothing but 4-star and up. We contractually mandate that we will never sell a standard room. We always do at least a 1 category upgrade to a superior deluxe. And really, that's, to just break off for a second, that's addressing the American market, because most standard rooms in Europe, and again, we do business in a lot of countries other than Europe, but most standard rooms in Europe are pretty small. That's really surprising to Americans when they get over there and they're like, this is tiny. This is a postage stamp, and so it's like, well, we already know that. That's why we address that and get you a bigger room. We include breakfast every day because most people will skip that step, only to find out that if you didn't pay for it ahead, breakfast is 40 or 45 bucks a person. And you're like, whoa, I don't want to spend that. But then the alternative is, well, now what are you going to do? You're going to get up early. You're going to get completely dressed and ready and then go hunt and forage for your food in another country where you don't know where to go. And that's not a good solution either. So what we did is, by providing breakfast, it's a small hack, but you can go down in your robe and your slippers if you want to. I've seen people do that all the time. And to be honest, I have done it myself. But you can just slip on down to the hotel, grab some food, and then finish getting ready, and leisurely leave in a way that doesn't, create problems for your day and add stress. So those are some of the things, I also look at hotels like this. You say that you're only going to sleep, but the truth is, it's the last place you see before you go to sleep. It's the first place you see when you wake up. And if you have a nice room and it's in a nice area and it has a great view out of the window, how does that not increase the experience that you're going to have in this other country? So I think the philosophy of this is just a hotel where I'm going to sleep actually holds a lot of water for a quick visit. Somebody's getting married. Yeah, it's great. Go ahead, stay like someplace like regular. It's no big deal. You don't have to go crazy, right? There's a funeral, somebody's baby's getting born, like work trip. Sure, absolutely. Right. Go nuts on a normal regular hotel. But when you're going to go on a vacation with your family and you're going to invest, thousands of dollars to go to another country and figure all these things out, by all means, get yourself something that you deserve. Get yourself something that works. And that adds to your experience and makes it better, because ultimately, we have our memories. That's about it. Right. People can get kind of tight with their own money when they're spending it dollar at a time or thing at a time. Right. Think about if you go to the beach. So you might have $50 for the cabana. So you have a little shade. And then you have another $100 if you want to take out a jet ski. And then you have lunch, and all these little things. You're like, oh, the beach is cheap. There's no charge to be sitting on the beach. But then you start adding up all the things that actually make a good beach experience. And it's oh, well, if you're just being, if you're buying these things one at a time, you might say no to a few of the things that might make it really great,
right?
Just to save a couple of bucks, when in reality, you would have had a much better time with a little bit of shade and a jet ski and there's a couple other things. And that's just a silly example that I just made up. But in essence, I spend my clients' money, but I try to do it well in a way that adds value, not price. Price is what you pay, value is what you get. And I focus only on value. If we can give you a tour that you come back from and you can't even remember how much you spent, that's a good tour.
I love that.
That's the bar I'm going for.
And what is kind of the cost for these types of, I know obviously it's a wide range, but what should people expect, or what can people expect in terms of the value they're going to get, and what that's going to cost them for the service?
So we as an organization take care of pretty much every single possible thing that can come up in international travel. So maybe I'll just run through some of them real quick so you kind of get an idea of what you get for the money. And then I'll give you some ideas of some of the tours and prices. Make sense?
Yeah.
So what we did is we broke every single tour into essentially two parts. And the first part we call the essential tour. And honestly, if any client of mine only gets the essential tour part, that is a fantastic tour. There's nothing else they need to do. Okay. But the essential tour is anything that anybody would need, whether you've never been somewhere or you've been there 5 times. It's round trip, private, English speaking transportation with gratuity included, starting from your house anytime you have your luggage or anytime it's more than 20 minutes from point to point. So we solve all of the transportation problems minus you're going to dinner and you can just take a cab because it's like 5 minutes away, right? 2, we include hotels. I just said 4-star, superior deluxe rooms, breakfast included. We do focus on boutique style hotels. We typically want to incorporate an architectural or historical component so that we can deep dive you into the culture and the people around that. We always include, if you have train tickets, first class. And we always include 1 welcome dinner, 1 farewell dinner, and 1 privately guided tour in each city you visit. And when we include a private guided tour, we always include skip the line access to whatever you might be going to. So, for example, if you're going to the Vatican, you could not do that tour through me and you'll spend 2 hours waiting in line just to get inside and another 4 hours going through. Or you can go through me and be there an hour before they open with absolutely nobody around and cruise through. That's up to you, but how do you want to marshal your time?
Yeah.
So that's the essential tour. All right. So we can serve that particular tour in any of our countries in 5 minutes quote. But what really makes it magic, what makes it personalized and customized is what happens next. So our enhancements are subdivided into 4 categories. Now, what we found is most people fall into at least 1, if not more, of those categories. And each of those categories, we provide 4 to 5 curated options that allow people to choose how they want to make that good. And I say curated because I want people to know we already know what sucks. So if you are like, hey, I would like to take a sunset camel ride on the beach, I'm going to tell you, no, you don't. You really don't want to go there. You might have seen it on Instagram. I'm sure it looks fantastic. That is not an experience you literally want to have. So what are these 4 categories? We have the first one is called Savor. Anything foodie related, really. Tastings, wineries, breweries, cooking classes, chocolate workshops, Michelin star dining opportunities, anything and everything to do with food goes into that category. Second category is Explore. We use that for anything cultural, people, places, anything that could be added as a cultural marker goes into there. Our third category is Excite. It's probably my favorite one. It's anything adrenaline related, a hot air balloon ride. You want to drive Ferraris on or off the track. Do you want to fly in a P-51 Mustang going over World War I battlefields, whitewater rafting, skiing, bungee jumping, any of it? All of it goes into that category. And the last one, we found that some people just really want the best of everything, and we call that our pampered category. That could be room upgrades where we take you to junior suites or suites, 4-star to 5-star hotels. That could be personal shoppers, or that could also be half day, full day spa packages. We don't include things like a couples massage in that. It's more of like, this is what I want to be there for. And then, so each of our 4 categories provides 4 or 5 different options, and our clients have the price of those options and can literally click to add them or not add them, and we'll put them into the right place in the itinerary. So you don't have to actually pick what day those things are going to go on. We'll do that for you. You just have to pick, do I want to do this? Yes or no? And then in addition to those 4 enhancements, we have 2 more things that we offer that nobody else does. So first thing, and I'm going to spend a little bit extra time on this because Matthew, you said something earlier that keyed me in on this. What's the marker of a great vacation? Like a great vacation. For me, philosophically, if you have spent hundreds of dollars to put a picture from your vacation on canvas, frame it, and put it in your living room, that was a good vacation. you want to remember everything about that trip, and you can anchor all of that from one picture. But the problem that I see is that too many times vacation photography is like this, and it's like this arm in arm, big cheesy smile, something in the background, right? It's what I think is it's a great picture for Facebook, but nobody spends that kind of money to blow it up and put it in their living room. It's not that good. So what we did is we hire, it's an option. For 2 hours at a time, we will hire professional photographers with medium to long range lenses in a paparazzi style photography session where we want you to have your real genuine smiles as you're constantly walking. And we have the cool stuff behind you not because you were posing, not because you had to, but just because
those in the moment, capturing the real experience, not posed, not planned.
I have hundreds, maybe thousands.
I love that. That's cool.
That like make a real difference. So that's one of the things that we can do. That's a great option, and we give clients of ours options to do that 1, 2, or 3 times, so they can do it a lot or a little. And then when it's done, what we do is we provide I've got one here actually, a leather bound custom photo book that has all your picture. Well, not all your pictures. It has a lot of your pictures and stuff in it. And then we release all the digital stills to the client, so they can do whatever they want with them. It comes with the rights, which is important. So that's our photography package. And then the other thing that we do, and this one also deserves a lot of explanation, unfortunately, because again, nobody's doing this. But we chose very specifically and distinctly to not be a signature or virtuoso agency. Do you know about those? Most people in the luxury space know about those. It's basically a marker of luxury. And essentially, the reason that it exists is because those organizations have predefined contracts with hotels around the world to be able to provide a certain amount of amenities for clients that book under their umbrella. Now, pretty typically, those amenities fall into the chocolate covered strawberries and champagne route. Okay. So here's the thing. If I have a client paying me for an Icelandic, Peruvian, or Egyptian tour, and I give them a bottle of champagne, I'm pretty sure that they'll generally like it if they like champagne. But the problem for me is that you have paid me for an Icelandic or an Egyptian or a Peruvian tour, and I just gave you a French experience. So for me, that's a big disconnect. And what I found over the years is that as a professional, I understand what the local specialties of every area that we do business in. And I knew that some of my clients weren't stopping in the right store. They didn't go down the right street. So they didn't even know about these experiences at all. The net effect is if you don't know about it and you miss out on it, you haven't really lost anything. However, I hold myself to a really high professional standard. And so I know you missed it. So what we did with our custom daily amenities package, and the reason we don't do virtuoso and signature, is to be able to take locally produced, local specialties in all sorts of categories. And we have one of those items delivered to our clients every single day. Those things have been wooden bowls, knives, colognes, perfumes, food, non-food, alcohol, non-alcohol, clothes, candles, you name it. We don't care what it is. What we care about is that we can give you a deep dive into the culture and people. These are not things that can be found in a tourist shop. And we deliver these things to you so that you genuinely don't miss out on something. Like, for example, I'll give you 2 examples. One in Belgium. You ever been to Belgium?
No, I've been to Germany, but close. Not
Belgium. So you ever heard of the Kuberdon? No, probably not. Mm-hmm. So it's a conical gummy candy that they literally sell in like carts. They put them in paper bags. There's nothing sexy about them, right? In general. But my wife loves them. She loves them. And they're a big thing there. So, that's like one small thing that we can do, right? That's like one part of what we do.
Yep.
The other part is what about something a little nicer? So we do business in a hotel in Scotland. And just to paint the picture for you, this is a castle. It has 5 rooms only. We typically book our clients into one of the 5 rooms. And that one room specifically has a window that overlooks kind of like a meadow, a cliffside drop, the water, and out in the water in a visible range is a small uninhabited island out there. On that uninhabited island, there is a very specific green flecked granite, which only exists there. And only one company has the mining rights to that granite. They make curling stones. But as a result of them making the curling stones, a little bit of the material that's left over is sold to a local jeweler. So what do we do for our custom amenities package? We're going to provide sterling silver and green granite cufflinks to the men and a matching necklace to the ladies.
That's dope.
It comes with a story that tells you this is where this came from. And you can see it right outside your window, and that's what it is. So what is that experience like when you look at it from that perspective? Well, I mean, yeah, obviously we could have booked any hotel and we could have gotten you a bottle of champagne, but can we repeat that kind of level of experience, not, doing it any other way? So that's kind of some of the ways that we do things to set ourselves apart and be able to put our clients first in the experience rather than what's really for most other agencies, the easy way, which is, hey, can you put a bottle of champagne in their room?
I love that. You're speaking my language. One, I might be calling you up to book that Scotland trip for me and my family because that's on our top 5 list. And 2, I think, what you're highlighting here that I think applies to any entrepreneur, any business owner, anybody that's looking to give somebody an amazing experience, right, is those unique value propositions that go above and beyond just being run of the mill or what everybody else is doing.
Sure.
But thinking about how do you, based on your industry or your service or your product that you're selling, how do you really create those separators from everybody else? Being that, let's be honest, right? The world of business is noisy. It's crowded. We've got a lot of options and access to information and reviews and all those things, right? So it's like,
yeah.
How do you really give yourself that type of edge? And I guess my question to you is, how do you do it? So the people that know about it, enjoy it. I know that. How have you guys been so good at giving people the window into what that is and actually knowing about those things, right? Acquiring those new customers, growing your business, getting people to talk about it. What are some of your, referral and review strategies that, allow people to shout about Lugos Travel and how great you guys are? What does that look like for you guys?
I would love to say that we're doing the best job we can with that. But I know the reality is that we could be doing a little bit better. We did grow this. I grew this company for the last 10 years on nothing but repeat and referral business. What we've been able to implement now with the essential tour package and the enhancements is being able to, and I mentioned this to you earlier before we started recording, is we can get a proposal into a client's hands in under 5 minutes, where every single other company in the world is taking 5 to 7 days. First proposal, 5 to 7 days versus us, 5 minutes.
Amazing.
So how do we do that? Or why do we do that is probably the better question, is because what I really understand is that ultimately I was just like everybody else. I had a regular job, I had my family, I had all the stress that comes with all of those things and trying to balance work and life and what I was going to do. And every year I found that I really wanted to take a great vacation, but that the stress of planning it and putting it all together was really just more than I could bear. And so I did what I think a lot of people do. I kicked that can down the road and I was like, I can't take care of that right now. I've got this other thing that's got me busy, but I'll get to it. And eventually kicking that can down the road works for only so long, because then at some point, you're going to realize that if I don't make a plan like now, the flights are going to be more expensive. The hotels are going to be booked. It's going to be really, really difficult to be able to actually do anything. And so when that stress builds up, I think what most people do, and I know it's what I did, is we want to hit that easy button. Like, what is the fastest possible way that we can go from I don't have anything planned to it's done? And so we wanted to really think about that process and put that into place, because ultimately, I really want to keep people as experts in the lives that they have and not create new experts in something they don't need to be an expert in, right? Ultimately, I want you to have a great vacation. I don't want you to be great at planning vacation.
Yeah, turnkey, sit back, let me just enjoy.
Right. And so a lot of what we've done over the last year to be able to implement this system is to be able to give people that choice to do things. But I'll tell you what the ancillary benefit is as an entrepreneur business type podcast. I think this would be interesting to people is in every single company in the world, getting a proposal into the customer's hands. And same for me for the last 10 years had a cost. It was a cost of money, time, and people. And so to give you a great example of what that looked like, clients would come to me and say, hey, I want to take a tour. And then I had to take a lot of time, typically an hour with that client to understand who they were and what they wanted, so that I could then build a completely custom proposal. And a week later, I would give it to them and they'd be like, this is great, Shane. I can't believe this. But what I really want to do is change this, this, and this. And I'd be like, that's fantastic. No problem. So then I would take it back to my team and they would get the new pricing and then they would send it back to me. And then I would send it to my graphics artist and then it would come back to me and then I would send it to the client. They'd be like, this is fantastic. Let's do it. But now 2 weeks has gone by. So the stress level is this point. It's like super high. Everything is, they just wanted it to be done. And it's now 2 weeks later, right?
Yeah.
That's one. But ultimately what we did by implementing this system is get rid of all of that time. Now our clients can actually not only get their proposal in under 5 minutes, they can completely craft and customize it in an afternoon with their loved ones. And here's the best part, Matthew. They didn't have to spend 1 minute on the phone with me. You didn't have to tell me anything about yourself because I changed the system away from like saying like, hey, who are you and what are these things you might be interested in, so that I could then pull like great suggestions. But every single time I did it, there was never once that people were like, this is perfect. I'll take it. It's done. They always wanted to change. And so I started looking at that and I was like, I think that I'm spending this time with them to be able to shortcut that process. But in fact, really what it's doing is just adding more time and more stress and more of my clients' time too. And so by being able to think of them first, I already knew what the options that were great and the options that weren't that great. I kind of mentioned this earlier to you. Like we have a tour in Cabo San Lucas, and like options that are really, really cool. We have 600 horsepower, $120,000 Baja trucks that you can take on a 5-mile closed course. That is a blast. People want to do that. And honestly, everybody should want to do that. What is another great experience? Being able to tandem paraglide, where you can literally fly a foot over the waves crashing in on the beach, or go up like 1,000 feet and check it out from afar. You can see the rays swimming in the water and all this stuff. Super cool. But what sucks? Well, it looks really good on Instagram to see camels, to ride camels on the beach in the sunset. And if you've never ridden a camel, it looks cool. But if you have ridden a camel, then you know that it is not a comfortable ride. They're not exactly the best smelling creatures. And here's the thing. It's billed as a 2-hour expedition, but the reality is of every single operator that does it is it's a 20 minutes on the camel. It's an hour and a half of an eco tour where you learn about how recycling is a good idea. And I'm like, that's not cool. Nobody wants to do that. I've never met a client that's like, yeah, teach me about recycling before I go ride on a stinky camel. It's just not a good thing. So what we did is we thought about our clients first, and we got rid of the options that were no good. And so we only present options that are interesting, different, and great. Now, it's not a comprehensive list, but it's a good enough list that we can tell you that no matter what your tastes or interests are, we're going to have a fantastic time for you. And how does that work? Well, it's done, and you did it by yourself really, really quickly.
I love it. I love it. So as we wrap up today, brother, one, I know a lot of people probably going to want to, reach out to you and learn more about, one, your entrepreneurial journey, but two, your service and your product. We got a lot of high net worth people and people that love travel, lifestyle experience. So I want to make sure that they know how to, connect with you there. And we'll be sure to link up all of that in the show notes. And we'll get to that here in just a quick second. But I'm curious on, what are you seeing change in the terms? This is a selfish question, by the way. What are you seeing change in terms of, the psychology of travelers and the world of travel? And, what do you think has changed since COVID? And where do you kind of think things are heading in terms of the travel industry and market as a whole going forward?
So from like say a 30,000 foot view, what I've seen over the last 20 years, and then we'll pivot to the last like 2 years, but over the last like 20 or 30 years, you used to have to go to a travel agent because they were the gatekeepers of all the information. Then the internet comes out. And then what I believe happens is there's now all the information in the world. And in my opinion, there's too much information. Now people have more decision paralysis because how do you pick between these two hotels? This one has 600 reviews. This one has 700 reviews, and both of them have about the same number of stars. Like, how do you pick that? Well, it's understanding which one's going to give the better service, but you're not going to know that from the reviews. We know that because we take tours and we depend on partners to be able to check up on what's going on and boots on the ground.
Yep.
Right. So just seeing that industry change in that particular vein, I think the internet gave people a really false sense of being able to do it themselves. And the truth is that it's not a very difficult job in the sense that a lot of what I do is clicking the mouse button and saying, buy this. But the difference is the knowledge and experience that it takes to know what to do, when to do it, and why to do it. A great example that comes to mind is using private guides. Most people that have ever used a guide used a group guide. And group guides are essentially the Disney ride of guides, right? They have a specific schedule. They have to be here, they go there, and stuff like that.
Yep.
And so one of the things that like I look at is like, let's say, for example, I was in the Hermitage in St. Petersburg, Russia. And so I was in this gorgeous museum, really appreciating the art. And I saw a group of like 40 people with this one guy with like a paddle with a number on it. It's like group 40 or whatever, right? And he comes into this magnificent room. People like spread out. They look at like 3 paintings before the guy's like, group 40, we've got to go, right? And all I thought about was, okay, these people each spent, let's say, $5,000 to $8,000 just to be in that room, to see the thing that they came so far to do. And someone else just told them it was time to go, and they didn't have a choice. And I think that sucks, right? Because ultimately, you understand what you're paying for. So we use private guides only because if you're in that room and you want to stay longer, we want you to stay longer, and there's no problem with that. But conversely, we want to respect your time. So if you don't like that, you can say something like, I'm just not into this. And that's it. The tour changes 180 degrees to what you do like. So it's about maximizing your value and your time, and understanding the trade-offs that are made is something that we do that I don't think the internet can teach you by just clicking some boxes and checking some stuff out. So that's like the last 20 years. Let's look at the last 2 years with COVID. Now, COVID absolutely ravaged my industry, but here's how that's really working around the background now. A lot of companies around the world had to cut a lot of staff because of COVID. They didn't have any money coming in, so there wasn't any choice. But now that travel is back, and it's not just back a little bit, it's back to pre and then some numbers. And so the problem that's happening right now is that everybody in the world is absolutely overloaded with requests that they can't get to fast. So what reality was of getting a proposal in 5 to 7 days before is, even for me, if I do a completely custom tour, it can be very difficult for me to get those kind of numbers and plans in 5 to 7 days. It's often taking longer. So I find myself at a really interesting point where we've implemented this system to be able to immediately quote at a time where nobody else can do it even close to that. And it's actually taking longer. But to look at it from another perspective is, what do we do to take care of those problems? You know, and like as a company, we just got rid of this requirement, which is fantastic. You no longer have to have a COVID test to come back to the United States. But we used to take care of that. So we would set that up, including, you know, in some places have the doctor come to your hotel room. In other places, we would arrange for you to go to where you needed to go for a testing facility. But we take care of a lot of those problems that happen in and around travel. You know, and again, it really comes down to, you know, when there's a problem, who do you want to deal with it? Do you want to raise your hand and say, I want to deal with it? Like, no, nobody does that. But understand that any international travel has multiple parts to it. And any one of those parts could put you on the job to fix things immediately. And I mean, like literally, it's funny. We started this conversation and not 5 minutes before we started it, I was dealing with a client whose flight was delayed, and they were going to miss tomorrow morning going to the Giverny Gardens to see Monet's gardens and Van Gogh's house. Well, you know, she only had to tell me that her flights changed and when they changed them to. And we've literally already changed her tour to be able to not miss that experience. We just delayed it a couple of days. So we switched a few things around, and now she gets to experience and do the things that she really wanted to do, but without having to do anything really, and without having to miss it just because there was a flight delay. It's not her fault, but just because it's not your fault doesn't mean you won't pay for it one way or another. If she'd have booked it herself, she would have been paying for that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I feel like, you know, there's definitely a renaissance of the travel industry going on right now. You know, technology is obviously playing a big role in that too, I think, and just what, you know, travelers want and don't want, need and don't need. You know, it's very interesting to see the evolution of that psychology, you know, and that mindset, the physical side of things and how it's executed. And it sounds like, you know, in terms of implementing some technology and some processes and systems, making that frictionless, making it turnkey, right? Delivering that service and that experience, you know, ultimately I think is, you know, what people expect and probably going forward are going to continue to demand everyone get on board with that, right? Whether you're in the travel industry or not. So it's been a pleasure, man.
You should demand it.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, understand that you are worth it. That you don't have to put up with something substandard these days. There's too many options out there. And so don't demand something that's amazing, because it really can be delivered for you if you know where to look and what to do. You deserve it.
Well, Shane, I know a lot of people will want to know a little bit more about Lugos Travel and where they can learn more about your company. What's the best place for them to do that at?
So we actually touched on really only Lugos Travel. I'd encourage anybody to go to ShaneMahoney360.com. That's Shane, Shane, Mahoney 360.com. You can actually see all of our web properties. We have Entrepreneurs Travel Club that we also take entrepreneurs and put them on tax deductible travel vacations together so that they can deepen relationships with other entrepreneurs. And we also have a charity arm that we do Travel to Give Back. And that allows people to book what I would say is everyday travel, not big vacations, stuff like hotels, flights, and rental cars. But we actually donate a portion of the proceeds to the charity of their choice. A lot like a Smile.Amazon model.
That's cool.
Except we donate 5 times as much on a higher ticket price item. So I've got lofty goals with that. I want to try to donate $1 billion in the next 10 years. And I think we can do that with less than 2% of the US using the property. So ShaneMahoney360.com, go there. You can see everything. And also you can reach out to me. You can get on my calendar. Anybody has access to my calendar to be able to get more information and understand what our team can do to make your life and your experiences or your business better through travel and the travel tools that we have in place.
I love it. Well, guys, be sure to check that out, MillionaireMindcast.com on Shane's episode. Brother, appreciate all your time today. Looking forward to staying in touch. And thanks for dropping by Millionaire Mindcast.
My absolute pleasure. And I'll be upset if I don't at least get a shot to send you to Scotland.